Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is CAPRICORN, and this is the very first deck to come out of the Bloomburrow Early Access event. I am in the middle of a 24-hour marathon stream building absolute shenanigans in this format. New standard, post-rotation standard, really exciting. Honestly, almost as excited about the fact that we're finally getting 4 sets to rotate out of standard as I am about these new Bloomburrow cards. But I digress, let's move on. This deck is called Batshit Crazy, and the idea is, sure, we're kind of into Bat Tribal, but really what we're doubling down on is Life Gain, the new Life Gain deck in Standard, and also how we can augment that through Life Loss as well, and kind of get some double synergies going. Essence Channeler is an absolute monster, and I absolutely had to make this deck first and get it out to you guys. So we're going to get right to the deck breakdown and then the games. Before we do that, make sure you like the video if you haven't already. It's you guys liking the video every time that has helped this channel to grow so quickly. We screamed right past 10K subscribers, and that's all thanks to you. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an upload. Tons of crazy decks coming from early access for Bloomburrow. We're going to drop one every single day for like the first 2 weeks. So I hope you're ready. This is the first one. We actually kicked 𝑘𝐫𝐞𝐳𝑒𝑟𝑟𝑎𝑐ℎ ass, which feels a little good. So with all that out of the way, let's actually check out the deck and get to the games. Be sure to catch me live Monday through Friday over on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/quarantinecapricorn, because if I'm alive and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. And if you're seeing this the day it goes up, I'm streaming right now, just brewing more and more standard brews over on Twitch. So 24 hours, guys. Jump in. I'll see you there. Now let's break down this deck. Alright, so the core of this deck revolves around the idea of a life gain deck like we've seen in Standard before, with tons of life gain triggers and life gain payoffs, but this time around with Bat Tribal, we also have life loss synergies, so it's trying to double down on the life gain synergies while also introducing this life loss element. We also have some Bat Tribal synergies, but we're not going as deep into those. Those are kind of extra. The focus in this deck in particular is really just doubling down on the life gain and life loss stuff and trying to make that happen as consistently as we can. So first up, we have Essence Channeler. This card is an absolute monster, and the reason that I really wanted to build this deck first, this is a 2/1 Bat Cleric for 1 white and 1. As long as you've lost life this turn, it has flying and vigilance. Whenever you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on Essence Channeler, and then when it dies, you put its counters on target creature you control. So not only is it like an Ajani's Pride Mate that's just getting counter after counter after counter every time you get a life gain trigger, but it's also able to just move those counters onto whatever when it dies, so it's kind of strictly better than most life gain payoffs we've seen like this in the past. But then in addition, we can give it flying and vigilance if we just have a way to lose life. And the best way to do that in a deck like this is with Pain Lands. So we are running 3 Caves of Koilos, 4 Sulfurous Springs, and 4 Battlefield Forges, so that we have 11 Pain Lands, so that whenever we need it, we can just tap a Pain Land for mana, take a damage, and then turn on all of our things that care about losing life for the turn. It's probably the most consistent way that we have access to that. And since we need all those Pain Lands in the deck, it does allow us to splash into a third color, being red, for some little extra synergy in the form of Rowan, Scion of War. If you guys remember this card, this was from Wilds of Eldraine. 3 mana for a 4/2 menace. You can tap Rowan, and spells you cast this turn that are black and or red cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you lost this turn, activate only as a sorcery. So if, we ping ourselves for 1 or 2, we can now reduce the cost of all of the stuff in our hand and sometimes just double the amount of spells that we're casting in a turn. That being said, Rowan is just a little bit of extra spice, so we're just including the 1 copy, but it is a way to get extra value off those Pain Lands and off that life loss that we need in the deck anyways, that we really want to include extra Pain Lands for anyways. So nice little bit of a splash here. We've also got 4 Lunar Convocation, because at the beginning of your end step for 2 mana, this is an enchantment, and we will at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, each opponent loses 1 life. So This is going to ping them at the end of your turn, every turn, pretty much ever in this deck. Also, at the beginning of your end step, if you gained and lost life, you create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. You can also pay 2 mana and 2 life to draw cards. So this kind of does everything we want. Not only is it draining for an extra 1 every turn at the end of the turn, but we're able to make a bat token almost every single turn, as long as we make sure we pay that life with like a pain land or something, and then we gain life through a gain life trigger at some point over the turn. We're getting that bat, and then most of the time that bat's coming into play and actually gaining us more life with enters the battlefield triggers that gain us life, which I'll get to in just a little bit. So we can gain life and lose life to make a bat, which will come into play and gain us more life and trigger more things, and it kind of becomes this kind of pseudo engine and gets pretty crazy. It's also nice that not only do we have a mana sink to draw a card, but since we're paying life to do it, it is another way where if we don't have our pain lands or whatever, we can pay life into the Lunar Convocation to trigger our life loss stuff. So this can get really crazy if you have it out and you're able to get enough of an engine going, and we'll get into how we grease those gears in just a minute here. But we also have Starscape Cleric. 2 mana for a 2/1 Bat Cleric with flying. It can't block. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses a life. So we get this down, and now all of our life gain triggers are pinging the opponent for 1, as well as pinging them for another 1 at end of turn with Lunar Convocation. But where it gets really crazy is with the Offspring. For Offspring 1 black and 2, we make an additional 1/1 copy version of the Starscape Cleric. So for 5 mana total, we get 2 of these guys, and now every time we gain a life, they lose 2. And it can get just really out of hand really fast. And this is also where Rowan helps, because if we can reduce the cost by 1, 2, or even 3 mana, we can actually play the Starscape Cleric for pretty cheap while still getting the Offspring. And just get both out way quicker than we otherwise might be able to. We don't have to wait for our 5th land most of the time. And that can be really, really crazy on the right board states. So let's go back to the beginning of the curve, talk about the rest of the deck. We have 4 Case of the Uneaten Feast, because it's the one thing we can actually jam on turn 1 and start to get life gain triggers right away. Every single creature that we play is going to gain us a life. If we gain 5 or more life in a single turn, we will solve this at the end of the turn, and from that point on, at any time, this can be sacrificed to allow us to replay creature cards from our graveyard, which is just kind of insane. Most of this deck is creatures. Even the removal in this deck is in the form of creatures, so that we can take advantage of Case of the Uneaten Feast solve state, and also take advantage of the things that are going to gain us life by creatures coming into play. So if we can get both of those things through our creatures, if even with our removal and stuff like that, if our removal suite is in the form of creatures, we're going to get to double down on those types of synergies, and I think it's super effective. Moving on to the 2-drop slot, we have 3 il-Kors, because it's going to gain us life every time something enters the battlefield on our side, which is one of our primary ways of getting life gain triggers, both the Ellis and the Case of the Uneaten Feast. It's also nice that the Case of the Uneaten Feast can bring the Ellis back if we need to later in the game. We've also got 3 Amalia, Benavides, Aguirre, because this is another life gain payoff, has ward pay 3 life. When we gain life, we get to explore, so if we need to get to our next land drop, Amalia can help us get there, but it can also start to rack up those +1/+1 counters, just like the Essence Channeler can. So a really nice payoff. And then we've also got 4 Deep-Cavern Bat, because you kind of have to play this at this point. 1/1 flying lifelink. When it enters, we get to look at our opponent's hand, exile a non-land card from it until Deep-Cavern Bat leaves the battlefield. So it's a good way of getting rid of our opponent's really important on-curve play so that it messes with their curving. And it's also a good way to get rid of a piece of removal that they might use to take out one of our high threat priority targets, or just the Deep-Cavern Bat itself to get back whatever the bat took. But it's also a bat, which is going to matter for certain tribal synergies in this deck that I haven't gotten to yet, but we will in just a minute. That tribal synergy is Zoraline, Cosmos Caller. 3 mana for a 3/3 legendary Bat Cleric with flying and vigilance. So this is actually a pretty good body right off the bat. Whenever a bat you control, pun intended, whenever a bat you control attacks, you gain a life. So when Zoraline attacks, you'll actually get that life gain trigger, and then get all of the things that trigger off of gaining life, which is really nice. But you'll also get that same trigger when things like Deep-Cavern Bat attack, or the Essence Channeler attacks, or the Starscape Cleric attacks, or our tokens from Lunar Convocation attacks. There's a bunch of bats in this deck, and even though we're not putting the bat tribal synergy front and center, like first and foremost before the life gain synergies, there is plenty of bat tribal synergy in this deck and ways to capitalize on that trigger. So this is another way of getting a lot of life gain triggers and just really going off the rails. It also has the ability that when it enters or attacks, you may pay 2 and 2 life, and when you do, return target non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Now what's cool about that is it's any permanent, so we can use this to get back a case of the Uneaten Feast that we already sacrificed after it became solved in order to get back other creatures, and sort of create a soft loop. Now, thank you for the follow, Dr. Jabri. This is not a hard loop because it does come back with a finality counter on it, but usually you can get enough value off of that sort of combination to take over the game before you would need it to be a hard loop, right? So it's pretty cool that we can use Case to bring back a Zoraline, to bring back a Case, and then just eventually win before we have to worry about the finality counter. But it's also worth noting that if we can get a little bit of cost reduction with Rowan, we increase the chances of being able to play Zoraline on like turn 4 and have the 4 mana that we need and not have to worry about that 5th mana, so that we can actually use the ability right as an ETB and get something back right away, which is super powerful. But even if we don't, if we're swinging with Zoraline, we can bring stuff back. It becomes an immediate threat. And then even when it dies, like I said before, we get it back with the Case. So it's a pretty good combination. We're also running 4 Gumdrop Poisoners because, like I said earlier, if we can keep our removal suite in the form of creatures to get extra value off of things like Case of the Uneaten Feast, that's going to be preferable. So Poisoner will come down and give something -X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life we gain. So it's a way to turn the life that we're gaining in a turn into removal, take out another creature, while also having our own creature enter the battlefield, get our life gain triggers, and contribute to the board state in a meaningful way. We can also just tempt with treats for 1 mana if we need another way to gain life, create a food token, and have that extra versatility open to us. So she's an auto include. And bringing her back with something like Zoraline or Case of the Uneaten Feast to get even more stuff dead with her ETB is really nice. We've also got 3 Darkstar Augurs. This is one I was tempted to run 4 of, but I think 3 is the right number. 3 mana for a 2/3 flyer. At the beginning of your upkeep, you reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand, and then lose life equal to its mana value. So this is a really good way to just gas up while also giving us another auxiliary way of losing life if we need to. And it's worth noting that something like Darkstar Augur could be the thing that lets us gain lose a whole bunch of life all in one go to get a really big Rowan payoff all at once, if the stars align just right. But also, Darkstar Augur has Offspring of 1 black, so if we've got 4 mana, we can get 2 of these onto the battlefield, and not only are we drawing an extra 2 cards a turn, losing life that we don't care about losing because we're gaining plenty of life each turn to make up for it, but we get 2 creatures entering the battlefield and triggering all of our ETB triggers that are gaining us life and stuff with just the casting of 1 card. So Darkstar Augur having that Offspring 1 can be super crucial and really powerful on the right board state. And that's pretty much the deck. We are running 1 Mirrex so that we have the ability to create token creatures if we need to generate life gain triggers off of things like Case of the Uneaten Feast or il-Kor when we're out of gas. And we're running 3 Restless Fortresses because it's a manned land that's going to allow us to gain life and trigger those gain life triggers if we don't have any other options or any other ways to do that. And then 4 Concealed Courtyards, 3 Caves of Koilos, 1 Swamp, 1 Plains, and then we are trying out just 1 Mudflat Village and 1 Lupinflower Village, because I think this deck might be right for them. Each of these lands comes into play untapped, taps for just a colorless unless the mana is spent on a creature, and if it's spent on a creature, it'll tap for either the white or the black, depending on which land we're talking about. And since most of the deck is creatures, I think these fit perfectly here. Now, the Mudflat Village has an extra ability where we can pay 2, tap it, sack it, return target bat, lizard, rat, or squirrel from our graveyard to our hand. That's going to be a bat, you know, all the time. But being able to get one of our bats back just by sacking a land could be really, really good as extra late game value. And in the same fashion, we can pay to tap and sack the Lupinflower Village, look at the top 6 cards of our library, reveal a bat, bird, mouse, or rabbit from among them, put it into our hands. So this is a way to, in similar fashion to the Mudflat Village, get some extra value a little bit later in the game, except instead of getting a bat back from our graveyard, this is going to allow us to pick a bat from the top 6 cards of our library. And I think it just easily slots into the mana base without really any opportunity cost, so we're trying out one of each of those as well. But we do want a heavy focus on the Pain lands. So like I said, 4 Sulfurous Springs, 4 Battlefield Forge, 3 Caves of Koilos, so that we can make sure that we're always able to force ourselves to take a damage on our turn whenever we need to, because we have a lot of payoffs that rely on that. So that's the deck. Essence Channeler is insane. Now let's check out the games. We have no way to gain life other than Zoraline with this, which is a little bit worrisome. It makes me want to mulligan, but I think we're just going to keep it and hope we draw a couple cards off the top that help fill out the deck for us. So we'll start with the Courtyard, pass. I think we're going to tempt with treats at the end of his turn. Up against Croaky's here with a Bristly Bill. Alright, so tempt with treats. Alright, that looks fine. We'll go Ellis. Freaking Bill. Freaking Bill, guys. Pitiless Carnage. Oh god. What shenanigans are you up to? We need to be able to gain life. A lot of life. I think in order to get the most card advantage, we do this. And then we offer the trade with the Bristly Bill. Or mana advantage, rather. We want to use all of our mana. Play 2 2-drops next turn, so we jam our 3-drop. Alright, this is going to make some mana. Trying to decide how and what to do. Pillage the Bog for 8. Searching for something in particular. This has to be like a combo deck, right? It's gotta be a combo deck. No blocks. Alright, so Battlefield Forge. We'll go Essence Channeler. And then we'll go Essence Channeler. And then we will Smashy, get another life trigger, get more counters on the Essence Channelers. Seems pretty good, pass the turn. Well, if he's got a combo he's building towards, now's the time to use it. Because next turn is going to be bananas. Aftermath Analyst. He might have it. Pitiless Carnage. Yep, with 4 floating, so that you can just bring everything back. Seems that there's a glitch on Arena right now. It's not letting me bring up his graveyard, which is bizarre. Alright, can you do the full 20? With all of the crazy mana he's about to create. We shall see. 6 mana. don't know. I don't know. Plays the Aftermath Analyst. Has enough to sack it again, but doesn't really have many cards in the graveyard, I don't think. Many lands. Alright. Another Pitiless. So we'll do a little bit of this. And then we'll go white. And we'll do this. Gain 2 life. I mean, I guess we just do that, right? It's not enough. But it's whatever. And we'll just swing with everything. Get more life gain triggers for the Essence Channelers, and then hit in the sky. 2 slow, Croakies. Too slow, my friend. We gotcha. Let's go. This looks pretty good. I mean, 2 Zoraline's kind of a pain, but it's whatever. We will keep this. We'll start with the Caves of Koilos. Get out the Case of the Uneaten Feast. Turn 3 death to poison counters is real. Isn't there a card in the new set that lets you get rid of counters? Or am I mistaking that for something else? Maybe. Alright, we're gonna jam Ellis. Which is gonna cost us 2 more life, but we are gonna gain 1 back from the case. Harrier Strix on 1, huh? Okay, okay. Jams a Cavern. Valley Quest Caller. Named bird for the cavern, so even though you're using Valley Quest Caller, I guess it buffs birds as well. So it's bird tribal with a couple cards that are good for bird tribal that aren't necessarily birds themselves. Should probably keep that in mind. I mean, I think just jamming the Zoraline, shutting down his flyer, and also giving him a really good removal target, since we have a second Zoraline, is probably a good idea. If we can get to 5 mana for Starscape Cleric, that'll be sick. But we're not going to hold it back otherwise. We're just going to attack. Decline. Because we've got extra copies of both of those. Ellis has Death Touch. Alright, gonna hit the Tidebinder. Interesting. And then block it with the Tidebinder. So, in this specific scenario, I think it's probably best to just replay the Zoraline. Pass the turn. Hey, what's up, Striker? Welcome to the stream. I'll take a look at that list, gods. Alright, let's do this. Offspring, a Starscape Cleric. All the triggers. Every trigger. This is the first one, Striker. It's been pretty fun so far. Bats are pretty gnarly. That's a lot of triggers. Look at all of these triggers just popping right off. Get a gain life trigger there. Trigger the clerics again. Put you at 7. Jeez Louise. This deck's bananas. Well, Case of the Uneaten Feast is solved. Which means we can use it to just replay our graveyard whenever. Which seems kind of bananas. Inspiring Vantage. Alright, let's do this. Just to trigger Case. Ow. Yeah, we got you. When we attack with all 3 of those bats, it's 6 more life gain triggers. Or 3 life gain triggers and 6 more life loss triggers. Brutal. This looks fine. We'll keep it. Amalia and Essence Channeler. We just need ways to trigger it. Start with a Courtyard. Well, we don't have any ways of gaining life, do we? I think we just jam Amalia for now. Because it has ward. So if they have removal, it's probably the best thing to play. Alright, this is fine. Play the keys. The case. We probably just want to get our Essence Channeler out, to be honest. Trigger both of them. The Lunar Convocation would have been nice, but I think we wait until next turn. Let the Preacher come through. It's fine. Probably not Lawson. It's still possible, but probably not. If it changes, I will private message you as soon as I know for sure. And I'll tell you exactly what's up to make sure that you don't miss finding out about it. If I go, I'm definitely meeting up with you. I will make sure it happens. No blocks. You're gonna have to use your removal. If he kills Amalia, he has to take 3. If he kills the Essence Channeler, Amalia gets a counter, which is pretty cool. So I like that there's silver lining value in our life gain payoffs, even if they use removal. Tender Wild Guide. Could kill stuff. Don't think I want to kill stuff. We're going to do this. Get some triggers. And then we're going to do this to capitalize on those triggers at end of turn. Swing with Flying and Vigilance. Pretty sick. Pass the turn. Lunar Convocation now triggers. Gets us a bat, which triggers everything else again. Drain. Keep that for sure. Oh my god, next turn's going to be insane. 𝑇𝑒𝑒𝑟𝑟𝑎𝑐ℎ. That's fine. I don't even need to attack. That is fine. Preachers coming in. That's fine. I'm not worried about it. No blocks. No blocks. 0 blocks. Alright, here we go. Tap you for black. Offspring. Give it to me, baby. Oh my god, here we go. Just drain it all. Drain it all. Take it all. Take it all, baby. Take the entire girth of my bat. Down to 6. We'll make him have to chump block with 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒊𝒐𝒏 this guy. Right? Which means we can also swing here. He can't block the other flyers because he has to block the Essence Channeler. And he's only got 1 flying blocker. So he'll gain 4 life. Sure about that? I mean, I guess. But the drains are going to kill you at the end of the turn. He kind of has to block the Essence Channeler or the drains will kill him. Come on, come on. Dude, Offspring is insane. Offspring is gnarly, guys. Look at all these triggers. Okay. You're at 3. Good luck. I love how this deck can get really aggressive, but also just drain you out regardless of attacks with stuff like Starscape Cleric. Bananas. Bananas. Swinging with the team, are you? We'll let you hit for 3. It's fine. Go for the throat the Essence Channeler? I mean, yeah, I guess. I guess we'll do that. Just make a 7/7 bat token, because why not? Because why not? No blocking for you. 0 blocking for you. Yeah. Smash. Smash. Alright. We'll keep 7. We're going to start with the Concealed Courtyard. And we don't need to lose life yet, so we're going to play the other Concealed Courtyard on 2, I think. And get down in Ellis so we can start to get life gain triggers. Our opponent has a Ruin Lurker Bat. So he must be going, or she must be going, super deep into Bat Tribals specifically. Lunar Convocation, sure. Because of the Thrawn portal, she lost life and gained life with the Ruin Lurker Bat, so she's able to really kind of pop off. I think I just want to play Amalia and try and find a land. Starscape Cleric. Yeah, I'll keep that. I'll keep that and swing in. Pass to the opponent. That Ruin Lurker Bat's gonna be really annoying. Case of the Uneaten Feast, sure. 2 Lunar Convocations is really, really hard to deal with. What do we do here? I mean, I guess we just play Zoraline and try and put down a decent blocker. The Augur, I think we just need land, so I'm going to pitch it. We'll swing in with everybody. Just try to get in for some damage. And pass the turn. If she has removal, we're going to be in a rough spot. But otherwise, Zoraline's kind of keeping things okay for now. I mean, the Cleric's going to drain us out. But because we're a life gain deck ourselves, we can kind of come back from that. Holding back the 𝑇𝑒𝑟𝑟𝑎𝑐ℎ Bat. Sure. We'll just block one of the bats. Take an extra 2 here. Lunar Convocations trigger. It's a lot of value coming. It's a lot of value. Can we recover? Can we recover? That's the question. Don't think we can afford the Darkstar Augur. I think... I mean, if we could afford to pay 2 life, we could bring something out of the yard with the Zoraline by swinging with it. But I'm not sure if that matters. Let's try this. Just swing with the team. Get a little bit of a trigger going. Now we have the case of the Cave of Koilos, so theoretically we could lose a life whenever we want in order to turn the Essence Channeler into a flying blocker, which was kind of what made me want to cast that instead of just whatever, you know. Is it worth it to take a damage to prevent a damage? Probably. Wait, why did it go straight to blocks and not allow me to tap my mana? That's weird. She's got this one, unfortunately. I mean, 2 cases and 2 Lunar Convocations. You have literally half of each of those that are in your deck in the top, like, dozen cards. That's crazy. That's crazy luck. So, unfortunately, I don't think it was the deck that beat us. I think it was luck that beat us. If she had had only 1 Lunar Convocation or 1 case, or under normal circumstances, 1 of both, but even let's just say she got 2 of one or the other, but only had 1 of the other one, I think we would have been fine. Alright, here we go. We're going to keep this. This looks pretty good. Chunky's excited. I need more coffee. But we're going to try and get through this game first. Frantic Scapegoat. Have we seen our first mono red deck of the day? Probably. Alright, we're going to start with a case. It's not going to be that great against life gain, is it? I don't think so. I think we're alright. I think we're alright. Flame Cache Gecko. 2/2 for 2. This creature can't block. Hey, thanks for the gift sub, gods. Appreciate it greatly. I think we try to get down the 𝑖𝐿 first, so we can get more life gain triggers. It looks like he's playing Lizard Tribal, except he's also using the Scapegoat to give menace to other things. So he made mana with the Gecko to play the 𝐒𝐻𝐸𝑅. It's actually really strong. Maybe it isn't Lizard Tribal. Maybe it's just really good Rakdos. Although there's surprisingly very few black sources for having Gev in your deck, which is kind of weird. But I think we're going to be able to gain enough life that the early aggro's going to be somewhat mitigated. And we're not going to have to worry about it as much. No blocks. Take all the damage. We'll gain it back. We will gain it back. I think we want to start with this. And then we want to do this. That'll get us 3 life gain triggers. We'll go up to 11. And Essence Channeler will become a big nasty. A very big nasty. What, a 5/4? And we'll solve all of our cases. If we can just survive this turn, we will be in really, really good shape. Apocalypse redeeming no coffee. This is what I'm gonna have to deal with today, isn't it? Should have seen it coming. No tax. Got some pretty easy blocks though. We can block whatever we're worried about killing the Channeler with the 𝑖𝐿, so that we can Death Touch. It gains Trample until end of turn. Don't know how I feel about that. Well, I guess it doesn't matter that much. Let's go here, let's go here. We do lose our one of our life gain triggers with 𝑖𝐿 dying. But that's fine. He's got 1 card left in his hand, so if he has to use his last trick here and we're still not dead, that's probably pretty good. Alright, so we lose all of our counters. He's completely out of gas. We're down to 5. We're just going to do this. We'll gain 2 life. And kill the Scapegoat. He does have Menace on the Gecko, so if he has a way of doing an extra 4 damage with whatever he top decked, we're going to be in rough shape. But if he doesn't, then we got it. Then we got it. It's not the right creature type to use the Rockface Village on. Nice. Alright, well, I think we got him now. We'll gain 2 life from the Gumdrop Poisoner, kill the Inti, and then we'll get to attack with this one and gain 3 life. Solve the cases. And again, this has Menace, so we can't block, but at this point, we are just out-tempoing his damage with our life gain, and it doesn't matter. Another gecko. Oh, with no way to use the mana. He can give it haste. But I mean, that's a good thing for us, right? We just block it. Just block it and gain 3 life. Stay at 9. That seems fine. Let's just get Zoraline out. And swing with the Gumdrop Poisoner. Put you at 13, put us at 13. At this point, I just think it's over. We can bring back the Essence Channeler with Zoraline. Even the dog's excited. Even the dog's excited! Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.